Hi everyone. Well, today I'm going to be starting a new project, which is going to be the largest knife that I have made to date. And I'm going to make it from this piece of steel. This is a 8mm thick piece of knife steel, and I'm going to make one knife from it. It's going to be an extremely large Bowie knife. We spent a lot of time with my client deciding all the details and things, and I'm going to document the whole build so that you guys can see how it goes. So I'm going to start out, going to lay out the shape using some blue chemical dye, because I haven't got a printer or anything large enough in order to actually make a one-to-one template. So I'm literally just going to trace my template straight onto here and then cut it out. Now, because this is so thick, it's going to use up a lot of cutting discs, and it's going to use up an awful lot of abrasives, because we're going to give it a large hollow grind, which is probably going to be 8 to 10 inches long, which through 8mm thick steel is gonna, it's a lot of material to remove. To give you an idea, a lot of the knives that I make maybe max out at 5mm. Chef's knives, a thick one is 3mm. Millions more are a lot thinner than that. So it's going to be an awful lot of work, but I think the result is going to be pretty spectacular. I created a full 3D model of the knife and then used the dimensions from that in order to scribe onto the steel. Once the profile had been rough cut with the angle grinder, I took it to the bench grinder in order to smooth out all the edges. I applied some blue layout dye and used my vernier to scribe some parallel lines to define the thickness of the final edge. I rigged up the large whiteboard as a work rest and used it so I could set the depth for the hollow grind so it would be impossible for me to undershoot or overshoot in order to get consistent bevels both sides. So it's taken pretty much all morning in order to grind these hollow grinds on both sides. The primary edge is still about a millimetre, maybe 1.5 millimetres thick, which is way too thick still, even before heat treating it. So what I'm doing is going over the whole thing with some blue dye so that I can then grind the blade slightly thinner and slightly thinner on both sides and watch the grind work its way up the blade, as you'll see in a minute. I then cleaned up all the flat areas on the blade before heat treat. Again, I used the blue layout dye and my vernier in order to accurately scribe the locations of all the handle pins. Today I'm going to start making the guard for the knife, which I've chopped one out here, which was traced 1:1 scale from the 3D CAD model. Chopped one out here, which was traced 1:1 scale from the 3D CAD model that the client had approved. So what I plan to do is just mock that up roughly on there to get a feel for the size, etc. And now what I'm going to do is take this piece of 316 stainless steel and we're going to draw a template on there, scribe in the lines, cut it out roughly, and then mill out all the pockets, etc. Make sure it's a perfectly snug fit down onto here. I've scribed up the hole in the guard, and then we're going to drill it out with a cobalt bit a few times just to create a bit of space. And then after that I've got a brand new, extremely expensive end mill, which is a carbide one with extra special coatings for stainless steel, which cost me a fortune. So I'm going to then run that through the gap in order to make a nice tight fit that should go straight onto the knife after a little bit of filing to get rid of the corners. Unfortunately, the footage of me hardening the blade became corrupted. However, this is it post hardening, and we're now cleaning up all the surfaces, taking them back to a nice shiny finish. My client had requested that we set this African coin that's been cut out with the profile of the crocodile into the ivory. This presented a few challenges, whereby obviously we got the ivory piece here and we got the coin. However, the ivory itself is got quite a curve on it. So as you can see, the coin here is comparably perfectly flat, and we've got a flat surface. So that wasn't going to work without effectively making a tool in order to curve this coin to the same profile as the radius on the end of the ivory, and then very carefully cutting into the ivory the profile of the outside of the coin, the inside of the coin, and the outside of the crocodile, which, as you can see, the intricate detail that we've got on there compared to the size of the fingerprint on my hand, it would be quite a task in order to get that done. So we both agreed what we would do is remove the exterior shape of the coin and just leave the crocodile itself, which is what I'm going to set about trying to inlay today. I've actually just glued the crocodile down to the ivory scale, just with a little tack of super glue, but in the area that's obviously going to be removed later on, so it doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do now is I've got a very fine pin that I'm basically going to trace around the edge of the crocodile and scratch a tiny little line into the surface of the ivory that I can then colour in with pencil. So I've got a visible line, and then I'll go around it very finely with this tiny little Dremel tool in order to remove the ivory so we can sink the crocodile down into it. Here you can clearly see the flat profile of the coin versus the radius profile of the ivory. So in the next few sketches you'll see me making a plastic tool out of acetal, which is a hard engineering plastic, where I've basically made a concave and a convex side that will mirror the radius that we've got on the ivory. I then use that to bend that coin to match. Here I'm grinding a piece of warthog tusk, which again is made of a different type of ivory, but I'm collecting all the dust in the can so that I can then mix it with the epoxy in order to then set the coin into the handle. And again, this way the color match will be quite good because we're using ivory bonded resin to fit the coin. I then duplicate all the same steps again, but this time it's for a kudu rand coin from South Africa. This handle features 6 hidden pins, all of which are 1/4 inch diameter, and in order to achieve this, what I did was I actually taped each piece of ivory onto the knife. I leveled everything out on my mill and went through each hole individually, milling in blind holes, and then at the end of it we had all the pins, all the holes, so it could be glued together with no pins visible. The sheath for this knife was a project in its own right, but it features a bronze warthog medallion from the East African Wildlife Society, and the whole construction is from extremely durable, thick leather, which should last a lifetime.